as well. Now I'll go ahead and toss it to Council President Friedson for opening remarks, and then we'll open it up for questions. Council President, to you.
Thank you, Jordan. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us today for the media briefing. I want to begin by talking about the recommended fiscal year 25 operating budget that was submitted by the county executive last Thursday, and then move into a few additional council items before we open it up for questions. On Thursday, as hopefully everybody here knows, the county executive transmitted his recommended operating budget for fiscal year 25. It's a total of $7.1 billion. I want to thank the executive and his team for their work on the budget, which includes funding for some key community priorities without any additional property tax rate increase. Now it's the council's job to create the final budget, to discuss and debate it over the next couple of months, and to approve a budget that's ready to go for July 1st. Budgets aren't just spending plans, they're moral documents that demonstrate our collective priorities. So we're going to have a lot of robust discussions over the next couple of months to determine where we invest the taxpayer dollars that we receive. With unprecedented needs and finite resources, we have to ensure that every taxpayer dollar is put to its best use to serve the greatest needs of Montgomery County residents. So we're looking forward to receiving the views of our residents throughout this process and ensuring that we balance the need for important county services with the pressures currently on our taxpayers. We'll be holding public hearings on Monday, April 8th and Tuesday, April 9th at 1:30 in the afternoon and 7 p.m. in the evening. Residents can sign up to testify in person at the council office building or through Zoom on the council's website. Want to move on to the jobs initiative that I announced along with a supermajority of colleagues on the county council. We had a great press event last week with great feedback and input from a series of stakeholders. This jobs initiative, the Jobs Opportunities and Business Support, is a $20 million appropriation and investment to jumpstart the Economic Development Fund and spur economic development and create high-paying jobs in Montgomery County. It would create three separate complementary initiatives: a job creation fund, an innovation fund, and an equity fund, all focused on ensuring that Montgomery County regains its footing as the regional economic engine and a global economic powerhouse. The council will have a public hearing on the appropriation for this initiative on April 2nd. Once approved by the council, there will be an application process that will be initiated. The fund is proposed to be run by Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation, though the funds will remain in county government and released directly to the recipients of the funds, similarly to how we did many of the successful COVID relief programs for our local businesses. Last week, I also joined the county executive, religious and community leaders to highlight an important program essential to deterring hate crime and supporting security needs of our local nonprofit places of worship and ethnic organizations at risk of hate crimes. Schools and places of worship should be sanctuaries of peace and acceptance, not fear and violence. Unfortunately, too often, too many of our organizations are at risk, and we're seeing some of the challenges in other parts of the country reflected here in our community with an increase in hate crimes, an increase in hate bias incidents, and real palpable concern among our community members and community-based organizations. The $900,000 in grant funding has been awarded to 136 organizations to improve security and help deter hate crimes. By our knowledge, Montgomery County is the only local jurisdiction in the country who provides this level of support at the local level. Several states and the federal government provides similar support, and actually some regional counterparts are now looking at launching similar efforts as the one that we have successfully launched in Montgomery County. This was an effort that was originally launched in the aftermath of the Tree of Life massacre and some of the other hate-based issues that had faced religious-based organizations in other parts of the country, including the Mother Emanuel shooting. And I hosted, along with Sidney Katz and Gabe Albernaz, a faith security town hall that brought together faith communities to talk about the real security needs in early 2020. Subsequent to that, we appreciated the county executive moving forward with a grant program to respond to those needs that we worked with the chief administrative officer to make happen. And ultimately, that program was moved forward. Then COVID happened, and there was a question of a same services budget of whether or not we would continue what was essentially a new program, but what addressed security needs. And ultimately, we decided to expand the eligibility to include not just religious-based organizations at risk of a hate crime, but also ethnic-based organizations at risk of a hate crime because of the rise in anti-Asian hate during the early COVID period that has persisted, unfortunately. And that's where we have moved forward. And then in the aftermath of October 7th, as we saw huge additional needs in organizations throughout the country with hostilities and tensions rising, the county executive moved forward with expediting funding to organizations. And then I suggested, and council members agreed with adding funding, $311,700 to supplement to make sure that the full $900,000 that we had approved and appropriated during last year's budget for this fiscal year would not be siphoned off as part of those additional funds that were needed back in the fall. It is clearly needed. Montgomery County has experienced a 38% increase in applications for the grant funding this year. Obviously we regret the need for these funds, but I am proud that Montgomery County has stepped up in a way that is unique to other jurisdictions and other places to make sure that everybody in our community is safe and to make sure that we are living our values out loud when we say hate has no place in Montgomery County. Tomorrow, the council will continue its review of the Takoma Park Minor Master Plan. We have a straw vote tomorrow, and then we'll ultimately take up final votes next week, next Tuesday, or excuse me, 2 weeks. Next week, we're in recess on April the 2nd. The master plan amendment re-envisions the areas near and along Maple and Lee Avenues, the Erie Center, and the Washington Adventist Hospital and University campuses. The council recently did a bus tour to walk around and explore the area. We held a public hearing session in the community, which is a commitment that I have made as the Planning, Housing, and Parks Chair and currently as Council President to have public hearings in the impacted communities when we're talking about land use changes, which was very well attended. And the committee, the Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee that I chair, held 3 in-depth, lengthy work sessions to go over the plan in significant detail. So we will be taking up straw votes tomorrow, and final roll call votes are scheduled and planned for April 2nd. And then lastly, tomorrow we'll be recognizing Women's History Month with our majority female county council. And this 20th council will look to lift up the voices of not only our female colleagues on the county council, but some of the very impressive leaders in county government who are women, who are taking on and leading some of the most important functions that we have in our community and in our county. So look forward to celebrating our women leaders in Montgomery County government who are making a difference in our community each and every day, and using this as an opportunity to really highlight Women's History Month and highlight how well Montgomery County is supporting and is advancing on these important issues. With that, happy to open it up to your questions, and I will turn it to you, Jordan, to call on those who have them.
Great. Thank you so much, Council President. Reporters, a friendly reminder, if you have any questions, you can note that in the chat, or you can go ahead and raise your hand and I'll call on you accordingly. I don't see any questions at the moment, so I'll give you a few moments. Reporters, if you have any questions, going once. Okay, Jenny Bixby with MoCo 360. Good morning, Jenny.
Good morning, Jordan. Hi, Andrew. I saw that you and the county executive and some of your other colleagues on the council had submitted a letter to both the Maryland Department of Transportation and WMATA, kind of about the situation we're going to be in with the significant part of the red line cut off. what are some of your concerns for this summer? And could you kind of talk about the impetus for writing this letter?
Yes, thank you for the question. So this is a really important issue. Obviously, WMATA is the backbone of our public transportation system, not just in Montgomery County, but for the entire region. And there are some real concerns about what happens to our commuters, what happens to our regional transportation network when a portion of the red line is shut down for a significant period of time. And so I joined together with the district council members to send the letter to try to address some of these concerns and to make sure that we are doing this in a way that is that mitigates the disruption to the greatest extent possible. So on that letter, I'm sure you have seen it, is myself, Natalie Fountain Gonzalez, and Kate Stewart, the district council members, along with Evan Glass as chair of the Transportation Environment Committee, and the county executive, and me as council president. So, we want to work collaboratively with WMATA. We want to make sure that we're addressing, these issues, but, it's very concerning, particularly, Silver Spring in particular is the largest transit hub in Montgomery County. That's where the Silver Spring Transit Center is. And there are some, real challenges that we want to make sure that WMATA, the State Highway Administration, Maryland Department of Transportation, the Maryland Transit Authority, and our county transportation authorities are coordinating with the regional service centers, with our local businesses, with local commuters, and that we're getting out in front to the extent that we can. But as we do that, we want to address some of the other decisions that are scheduled to happen that would have significant disruptions as well. For instance, commuter service reductions in Montgomery County. We want to delay those to make sure that they're not happening at the same time that WMATA is shutting down service in the same area. MARC service. We want to make sure that we have additional MARC service to offset some of the needs that we have. We need to make sure that we have point-to-point express shuttle service to help with those who otherwise would be using the train and using Metro. And we want to make sure, that they're considering all options, including reducing fares and other options to try to encourage as many people to use the alternatives as possible, because we know, even a marginal increase in single occupancy vehicles and out of WMATA and ride-on and other transit will have a dramatic impact on commute times for everybody. So, as we say a lot, this is not just about the disruption that it's going to cause for Metro riders and transit riders. It's about the disruption that it's going to cause for the entire transportation network and everybody in Montgomery County who commutes not just to work, but as part of their everyday life, to run errands, to pick up children, to go to and from their activities on a daily basis.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jenny. Reporters, any other questions? I don't see any questions in the chat. Going once, going twice. 3 times. Okay, back to you, Council President Friedson, for closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Jordan. Thank you, everybody, for joining. If you have any questions that we didn't cover, feel free to follow up with us. But appreciate the time and look forward to having a productive week this week, heading into the spring break for Montgomery County Public Schools, and then coming back and taking up the operating budget in earnest. And I'm sure you'll be following closely, and look forward to that public debate and discussion and to answering your questions and the questions of the public as we move forward.